Hello everyone, how's it going? Thank you so much for tuning in to another video here on the channel. This is going to be a very hard video for me to do. Let's just get that out of the way. Elephant in the room. This is going to be really hard for me to do because I'm talking about something that's very, very personal. This is by far the hardest, the most important, and the realest video I've ever done in the history of this channel. I'm going to be talking about living with OCD. So let's give it a shot. So I want to mention real quick before we actually dive into all the details and the nitty gritty. One, I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm going to not sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to exaggerate. I'm going to give the honest to God truth. And that's why it's going to be so hard. I'm going to let it all hang out. I'm going to let everything out. I'm going to share every aspect in regards to living with OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And number two, I'm not a doctor, obviously. I'm not giving medical advice. If you are struggling with OCD, go see a doctor or a therapist to get actual treatment. I'll be honest, I'm not going to give much advice in this video. I'm just going to be sharing my story. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want other people living with OCD to know that it is okay to share it. It does not have to be a secret, and it is completely okay to share it with others. And also for those people, maybe you have just been diagnosed with OCD. Many people get diagnosed throughout their life. Maybe you think you have OCD. Maybe this video will help you decide that. But again, if you think you have OCD and you're struggling with it, go see a doctor, man. Or also, if you have a family member or friend or specifically a child that is struggling with OCD, possibly this may give you some guidance on what to look for and whatnot. So I was diagnosed with OCD when I was 7 years old. So I've lived most of my life, 23 years, with the diagnosis of OCD. Basically, the story behind that is my mom started noticing some behavior that was out of the ordinary. I would do things a certain amount of time. There was certain tics that I have, and before we get into much more, I want to explain what that means. Tics, that's something I'm going to be mentioning a lot in this video. Tics are basically things that somebody with OCD has to do. They're also referred to as rituals. I call them tics. So when I say tics throughout this video, what that means is certain things that I have to do. So the behavior that my mom started noticing was me spinning around a certain amount of times before I did something, me touching something a certain amount of times before I grabbed something, and things of that nature, doing things a certain amount of times before I did something. So she was concerned about that. She talked to my dad. My dad wasn't quite sure what to do, so they decided not to take me to the doctor. Basically what happened is in elementary school is when things really got bad. I used to have really bad anxiety and panic attacks. I would literally just start bawling, crying in the middle of class. It was very embarrassing. In my head, I would start thinking of home, my mom and my dad, my sister, or one of the many dogs that we had at the time. The way my OCD works is one of the many aspects of it is the mental aspect. So one of the things that is hardest is when I get something in my head, and it used to be much worse when I was younger. When I get something in my head, I would just think about it like a movie on repeat, over and over and over and over and over and over. Just repeat. I can't even explain to you what that's like if you can't experience it yourself. Just over and over and over. And what would happen is I'd be sitting in class, everything's fine, and then I would instantly go into that repeat mode in my head, thinking about dad. Literally, word for word in my head, it would be daddy, dad, mommy, sissy. And I would not be able to break that trance. It was just repeat in my head until I had a panic attack, and I would get just the emotion would come over me in a way that would just make me start just bawling, crying. That would happen basically every day. Sometimes I would be able to go to the bathroom before I started crying. Over time, I got I don't even want to say I got used to it, because that sounds like I worked itself out. When I would go into these fits, I would start feeling it ahead of time, and I would get up, talk to the teacher, and tell her I had a stomach ache or whatever, I don't feel good. Go to the nurse's office, and most of the time I'd be able to call my mom. Once I got this panic attack, 9 times out of 10, I'd have to go home. She would come pick me up. And not only did it happen when I'm at school, but on the way to school, a lot of times I would have this pure anxiety attack in the car, begging, my dad or my mom, whoever's dropping me off, just please let me just stay home. Please let me stay home. My dad actually dropped me off before I was actually diagnosed. So what happened was, my mom said, you take him to school so you can witness what happens here. Because, hearing third party, you think it's just a kid not wanting to go to school. That definitely was not the case. And I'm sorry, guys. Normally, I would edit out my tics, but I'm going to leave a lot of this stuff in here. Because, again, I want to be full transparency. I'll be honest, this is really hard. Just knowing that I'm going to put this video out with all of my tics exposed is very hard for me. I want to show people that it is okay to have OCD, okay? If I have any sort of advice, that is the advice that I have. And I'm going to go over all my tics later. I want to go through my life story here. So, when my dad dropped me off, my mom basically told him, you need to do this so you could see what I'm talking about. So, my dad tried to drop me off and noticed the panic attack and what was going on, and basically immediately called my mom and said, let's make a doctor's appointment. This is serious. This isn't just a kid not wanting to go to school. And then from there, I was diagnosed with OCD. Now going forward a little bit, I was actually homeschooled. So that is a huge, huge part of my life that I missed out on. I had to be homeschooled because of the OCD, my anxiety, and my tics. Going to school was not something I could do, and that was really, really, really hard. Think of when you were a kid. That's something that is huge in your life, is going to school, having friends, having a girlfriend, and that's something I completely missed out on. Later on in life, I had friends. Later on in life, I had a girlfriend, but I missed out on a huge chunk of childhood that people get to experience. And I can't even explain to you guys how detrimental that was. And also, real quick here, I want to mention, as I go through parts of my life, I want to be super duper clear. My parents and my sister and everyone else in my family was amazing. My childhood was amazing. I have the best parents, the best family I could ask for. I couldn't have asked for a better father, a better mother, a better sister. So I want to make that super clear. If I'm saying that I missed out on something, that is in no way a reflection of my parents. So I just want to make that super clear. So me being homeschooled and missing out on all of that was really hard. I didn't miss out on any aspect of learning, I don't think, in that regard. What my mom would try to do is have me socialize with other homeschool kids. There would be like once a month bowling or outdoor fun, and all these sort of projects and fun things to do for other homeschool kids, which was amazing. Those were fun. But at that point in my life, I was already very sheltered because I wasn't able to socialize. It was hard for me to socialize at those events. So it was a little bit of a too little too late sort of situation. And again, that my mom could not have done anything better at all. She did everything she could. I want to make that super clear again. And then when it came to high school, I was also homeschooled as well. Late middle school, high school, I was still homeschooled. And what we would do is I would enroll in 1 or 2 classes at the local high school. So that would be something to try to socialize a little bit more. But at that point, again, it was very hard for me to socialize. It was basically too late at that point. And I remember talking to other kids, late middle school and high school. They would be in awe that I was a homeschooler, and they would literally say, man, you're so lucky. You can get up at whatever time you want. You can do your work at any time, and you can sleep in, or you can have breakfast at home. You're so lucky. And I'd be like, yeah. But, deep down, I would say, man, you have no idea how hard it is. That didn't work out too much, the 1 or 2 classes. So that only lasted a very short period of time. And then I took online classes at Florida Virtual School, which was great. You know, it's a great learning system. Do it online, and you had teachers that you could communicate with. It was really good, and then I got my GED, because at that time, I don't know how it is now, but in the state of Florida, you have to get your GED if you are homeschooled, so that's what I did. So that is basically my schooling days, the early parts of my life, and I'm trying not to leave anything out, but for the sake of this video, it could be hours long if I went through every detail of how it affected me. I'm trying to hit the high points as much as I can, and this video is hard in the other aspect of there's so much to talk about, it's hard to stay focused. Now I want to get into the tics, or rituals as some people call it. So this is actually probably the biggest aspect of OCD for me, is the tics. Now when people think of OCD, they think of the show Monk, which I can get into a whole rant about that show. In my opinion, it did nothing good for people with OCD. It was a comedy, so people think, oh, it's fun. You just wash your hands a lot, or you can't touch things, or whatever. The cleanliness is a very tiny, 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 tiny part of my OCD. My OCD is tics. That is my main sort of thing, and anxiety. I can't even count how many times I've told people, which I've told a very small amount of people in my life, my close friends and my close family. And obviously, if I was in a relationship, I would talk to the girl about that and let her know, obviously, in full disclosure in a relationship. And as soon as I told people that I have OCD, the ones I did tell, immediately they would say, oh, like the show Monk. And I'd be like, no, not like the show Monk. That's not accurate. And speaking of accuracy in Hollywood, I'd say the best depiction of OCD, in my opinion, would be Matchstick Men with Nicolas Cage. I think it came out in the early 2000s. He depicted probably the most accurate OCD depiction that I've seen, in my opinion. The way he does his tics a certain amount of times and gets very on edge about it, very aggravated with himself. That's extremely accurate. I have the same feeling myself a lot of times. So to get into some of the tics now, throughout the years, they've kind of evolved and changed. I have a certain tic, like my main tic I do mostly for a certain amount of time, however long whatever, a few months, 6 months, whatever. Now that tic never goes away. It just kind of added into the arsenal of all the rituals and tics that I have. But I have a main one that I, for the most part, at all times, and that kind of changes. Kind of almost like rotates, to the back of the line, kind of, I don't really know how to explain it. That's the best way I could explain it. So some of the tics I have right now is this one with the nose, pushing up on my nose. The main one I have is squinting my eyes like this. Squinting them. It's not as easy as just, either not doing it, which a lot of people say, just try not to do it. Just try to, hold it in, or it doesn't work like that. If you hold it in, it gets even worse. You're on edge. You get anxiety. And in the head, it's just over and over and over. It's telling you to do it, do it, over and over and over and over until you do it. For those of you who don't have OCD and are trying to imagine what it's like, imagine a tiny bully in your head, right? A lot of people say your conscience is like a little person in your head telling you what not to do. This is the exact opposite. It's a bully in your head telling you what to do. And if you don't do it, it's basically just, it triggers, it's saying, oh, do it. Just imagine a little person saying, do it. I bet you can't not do it. Just do it. I know you're going to do it. Just over and on repeat, over and over until you do it. That's the best way I can describe tics. And to elaborate on the eye squinting thing, that's my main tic, and it's by far the most frustrating. This is really hard to explain, but in order for it to, the thing you're doing, the tic, to count and to satisfy, that part of your brain, it has to be a certain way. I can't just, squint my eyes, normal like this. I can't do that. My eye has to be directly in the center of my, the pupil has to be exactly center in my eye, and then I have to close my eyes. I have to close my eyes, squint, squeeze my eyelids, and then let it go. If my eye is looking over to the other side and I do it, that doesn't count. So it doesn't relieve that urge. It has to be center, directly, looking straight. It sounds crazy, I know. I mean, literally, sometimes I will get in these cycles to where it's not right. So I have to keep doing it over and over. And sometimes I will literally be sitting there, squinting my eyes and squeezing my eyes for 2 or 3 minutes straight. Just straight up keep trying it over and over and over and over until I get it right. You know, it's really embarrassing. People don't see those things and think, oh, that person may have OCD. They see those things and think, what the hell's wrong with what's going on there? And I also have a jaw stretching thing that is also a tic I have. And the thing is about that is, if you see people who are addicted to crack or, cocaine or something, they always do that with their jaw. And it's extremely embarrassing. Another thing is if my arm's going like this, doing this a certain way, squeezing them together, the inside of my elbows. Another thing is outstretching my neck. And I actually have a bad neck on my right side, my right shoulder, my neck right up in here. I was in a car accident several years ago, so I have a really messed up neck and shoulder. And basically, a lot of times my neck is hurting and I do that, it's excruciating pain. But that doesn't make you not have to do it. And another thing I have to do, which is probably the most frustrating next to the eye squint, is I have to jerk my arms back like this. Almost like if you're stretching, going like this, but it's in a jerking motion. And that's extremely embarrassing as well. People always ask me, why are you doing that? I used to say, oh, I'm just trying to, stretch my back. But now I just tell people I have OCD, and that's one of my tics. I'm in the middle of editing this video as we speak. And I totally forgot to mention one very important thing that I am passionate about. And that is when people make fun or crack jokes that they have OCD. What do I mean by that? The people that say they like things extra clean, that must be their OCD. For example, you walk by a coworker's desk that's very clean, neat, and tidy, and you say, wow, your desk looks really good. That's awesome. They say, oh yeah, it's my OCD, or I'm so OCD like that. That to me is very offensive. And I don't get offended easy, trust me. But that really pisses me off. If you're one of the ones that actually joke about OCD, think about it like this. Would you go up to somebody who's balding and say, man, a cancer patient has more hair than you? Would you say, man, nobody wants to hang out with me. It's like I got the HIV. No, you wouldn't. You know why? Because those are serious diseases. I'm not comparing OCD to those diseases by any means. But at the end of the day, OCD is a huge part of a lot of people's lives, man. And just stop making those jokes, dude. Seriously, man, that happens so often. And I ask him, oh, do you have OCD? No, I'm just joking. And that really, really irks me. And it makes me sad because I'm sitting here struggling with OCD every day, doing all sorts of tics and everything. And you make a joke about it. I don't like that. Please stop it if you're one of those people. Maybe next time you hear somebody say that, maybe say, hey, that's not cool, man. Anyway, guys, back to the video. So that's the physical aspect of my tics. Now, I also have mental tics as well, which is just as bad, maybe even worse. All day I have these tics in my head going over and over and over and over and over all day. I could be sitting right in front of you, not doing any of my physical tics, but in my head, I'm just playing this game of over and over, tick, boom, boom, boom. Thinking about things a certain way, doing things in my head a certain way, looking at things a certain way, which is extremely exhausting. That coupled with the physical tics is just exhausting and extremely frustrating. So before we wrap up the video, I just want to say thank you for checking it out. If you watched the whole thing, I know this is a very long video, but I really wanted to let everything out, share everything with the world, just to kind of let everyone know that has OCD, it is okay to talk about things. If I could go back, all those years ago, I would just be more open with it. That may have helped me out. The people that were making fun of me or people that were mentioning my tics, not in a mean way, but just saying, hey, why do you do that? Which is a very normal thing to ask. If somebody's jerking their arms back, you'd be like, what's going on there? I wish I would have just said, oh, I have OCD. That would have made things much more simple. So if you have OCD, the sooner you realize that it's nothing to be ashamed of, it's something you have to deal with, it'll make things a lot easier for you. And also I want to say, if you're watching this as somebody in your family or close friends have OCD, just talk to them. Let them know that you are there for them if they need to talk, they need to vent or anything. Let them know you're there and you support them. And also be sure to mention, if you have tics you have to do, don't be ashamed or embarrassed to do those in front of me, because keeping that stuff in, which is almost impossible, but sometimes you wait for them to look away and do it, which I've done a countless countless times I've wait for somebody to look away and do it. You know, that's something I do. Let them know, hey, you don't have to do that. Just do your tics, let it all out in front of me, be yourself. And that will just relieve them of a very stressful and emotional situation. Let them know, hey, I'm here. If you want to do those tics in front of me, that's totally cool. If not, that's totally cool. I'm here for you, and I'm with you. That'll mean a lot to them. So thank you so much for tuning into the video. If you watched the whole thing, that really means a lot. This was a very hard video to do, so I appreciate you checking it out to the end. And one more thing, if you have any questions, any concerns, or just want to talk about it, drop a comment down below. I will respond to all the comments. If you have any questions or anything you want to talk about as far as OCD, I'm not going to give any medical advice. I'm only going to give advice in my personal opinion, so keep that in mind. That's it, guys. Thank you so much. God bless, and stay safe.